You were listening to the Battle Ready podcast. My name is Aaron McManus, and I'm here with my dad, Erwin Raphael McManus.
Wow, it's good to be back. It's been a while.
It's been a while. And on the coldest day of the year in Los Angeles, California.
I think it was 39 degrees here in LA.
I woke up and I have like a thing I don't like sleeping with the heat on because I don't know, my house is 101 years old, so like the insulation is a little like funky. But you wake up and you're either like burning or freezing. And so this morning I woke up and I'm like, I do not want to get out of bed. It was so cold this morning. So I really am feeling it for the Seattle people. I think we're colder than Seattle today though.
We might be, but I just love that crispy feeling. It's just wonderful.
I love the cold. I love it. I was actually thinking about it. I'm cuter in the cold.
Well, it's good to know that.
I got a little overcoat, jacket on, a little beanie. I'm wearing sweatpants. My A6.
I've got my McManus sweatpants on with my FOG top, kind of blending McManus Gallery and Fear of God.
McManus Gallery, we launched stuff.
We did. It's so much fun. I just love our new collection. I like our, I like the uniqueness of the materials, the colors, the shorts, the pants, the hoodies. Just really gorgeous.
It's been fun. It's been really good. And it's been such like a learning curve for us. I think even just getting like reintegrated back into clothing and into the fashion world a bit more, apparel, the landscape has changed. I think this release I'm the most proud of. I'm like really, really genuinely so proud of it.
I am too. I just love our totes. We have our small, large totes are just so gorgeous. I just think everything that we've done for this collection is just really unique and beautiful.
Yeah, it's really cool. So let's get into some stuff. I just want to hit some topics because we haven't really been around on the pod and people have been complaining. And you know what?
Thank you.
No, I don't care.
No, thank you for your complaints. I'm glad you missed us.
Do you? You miss them? I miss them.
No, I miss all of our listeners. I missed our podcast. I miss our conversations together. I'm really glad that you texted me this morning and said battle ready. And so we're diving back in. But this will be our last battle ready for 2021.
No, I don't know. Maybe we can get one in next week before
Maybe
we
get
go
one
off.
more?
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be great. Next week. Have our Christmas edition next week.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Maybe we could turn this into some Christmassy with some snow or something. I don't know.
It's kind of hard to make the word battle feel Christmassy.
I know. So here's the thing. So, you know, like obviously we've been doing this. I don't know. What episode is this?
So many. Over 100.
Can we find out?
Yeah, we have Sir Austin St. John
in the booth.
In the booth over there.
We've got to be in the 100 something category. But we went really hard during COVID doing this podcast, and it's been such a gift, such an honor to do it. I'm always a little bit thrown off when I meet people and they check out the podcast first. You know, I'm like, no, just get to know me as a human before you go and listen to me as a louder version of myself.
But I have to tell you, I've been traveling and even going down to Mexico City, I met so many people who know you because of Battle Ready. They love Battle Ready. They love you. They like me.
Yeah.
And it's incredible how many people from other countries are listening to Battle Ready. And I just really appreciate it. So if you're listening, we love you. Thank you so much for joining us.
We're sorry we've been gone.
Yes, but sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yes.
So your heart must be growing dramatically fonder of us.
Exploding with fondness. So I guess let's go. What's a couple of things we can talk about? How do you want to go heavy or light?
Let's go light. Let's go
light. Okay, Steph Curry breaks the 3-point record.
Oh man,
all-time shooting record.
Which is kind of a crazy thing that when Ray Allen broke the record, when he broke, I think it was Reggie Miller's record.
Yeah.
No one thought that record would ever be broken. I mean, it felt like one of those records that would be untouchable.
Yeah.
And here you have these two greats who are still alive and still really vibrant and healthy, watching Steph Curry decimate the speed in which the record was set.
In half the time, 2,974 three-pointers. He broke it against the New York Knicks last night or a couple nights ago, depending on when you're listening to this.
Madison Square Garden, the most iconic court in the world.
That's the best thing that's happened in the Garden in a long time. In a long time. Probably the best thing since, I don't know, One Direction played there. I don't know. Like, New York has a lot of things, It doesn't have basketball.
No,
It did have basketball.
I
It
see.
was once married.
I know, but I can still see
She
Patrick
left.
Ewing there. I can.
What?
I can see those glimpses of greatness that the Knicks had that they just never able to get over the hump. I mean, the moment when was it Carmelo Anthony was there and they almost were great. They had Lynn Sanity with Jeremy Lin, and
they did.
And there's always these moments that the Knicks tease all their fans with the pretension that they're going to be great.
Yeah.
And then it goes back. Maybe this year. You never know.
No, it won't be this year. There's no way.
Well,
there's no way.
Well, at least they had Steph.
Hey, the best thing that's happened to the Knicks is Steph Curry coming in and raining one on them, breaking that record. Look, we're Clippers fans.
Yes, so we have nothing we can say to the Knicks.
All we can do is talk trash and be honest about ourselves,
and then take out the trash,
and then talk trash about other teams.
Yep.
The Warriors feel like though the team that I've always been able to root for.
Yes.
And did I care about the Warriors before Steph Curry? Absolutely not. Will I care about them after Steph Curry? Absolutely not. But I love them, and I love Steph Curry, and I love Klay Thompson. I like Steve Kerr, Draymond Green. It feels like,
we've always been secret Warriors fans.
Yeah.
We were there for Steph's first finals against the Cavs.
Yeah.
We went up to Oakland and went to the game.
Yeah.
And so we didn't realize that we would be there for really the first finals game of the beginning of a legacy of 5 appearances in the finals, 3 championships. So we were not bandwagon fans because we were there from the very beginning before anyone knew.
When it was just a wagon.
Yeah.
Just a wagon.
There's no
I don't know why I said that so Midwest. Okay, so Steph Curry breaks the record. What else is going on?
Well, I do want to say that when Steph first started becoming a star, he came out with his first pair of shoes with Under Armour.
Right. They were god-awful.
And
the ugliest things I've ever seen in my life.
I was sent a pair.
Were you? Did you send them back?
No, because I was sent a pair as a gift by my agent. And when I opened up the box, the paper that wrapped the shoes up said, "I can do all things."
That's really
And it
cool.
was quoting Philippians 4:13, "I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me."
Except for design shoes. I can do all things except for design shoes for Under Armour.
And my understanding is that that's fundamentally one of the reasons he didn't sign with Nike. And other than I think they messed up the presentation.
What did they call him? They call him Kevin Durant.
Or they had someone else's presentation.
It was KD, wasn't it?
It was Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So that lets you know you don't really have the value that they're pretending that you have.
Yeah.
But I just love the fact, yes, the shoes were not the best shoes. The design was not trend setting, but I just really appreciated the fact that his faith was so central
to the story,
the story of his life and of his career from the very beginning.
It's really cool.
His marriage, his being a dad, his family. I posted the photograph of his dad Dell hugging him. And
you posted it?
I did. Just wrote legacy in my story this morning.
Oh, okay.
Put it in the story, and then the second photograph I posted was him giving his wife like a high five afterwards.
Okay.
And because I felt like
I don't think his wife was there. I think it was his mom.
I think it was. Look at my story.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Keep going.
But to me, Steph Curry is a great athlete, but his family and his relationships make him a great person, and that increases my respect for him.
Okay, so
wait a minute. I think we have some liquid coming in.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hot tea. Thank you, Austin. Wow.
Thanks, Austin. I don't know how you did that and did this, but you must have some helpers. Thank you. Okay, so Steph Curry, that happened. I had COVID 3 weeks ago.
You did.
That was super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Had it for 4 days and maybe longer. I'm not sure. I tested a lot and I tested negative when I wasn't feeling well. And then I guess the Sunday, it was the end of November. No, it was the week
right before Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And so I was
the weekend right before
so
Thanksgiving.
mad because Thanksgiving's
Yeah.
like actually my favorite holiday.
In fact, you tested negative Thanksgiving morning so you could come over.
You come over.
I mean, I was saying come over anyway,
Yeah.
but you were like, no, I'm going to keep you guys safe.
Yeah, no, I said I wasn't gonna come over unless I tested negative. So but I tested positive for 4 days,
Mm-hmm.
and I was over it pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
3 of the days were rough, but you know, I think I'm really fortunate. I did get the vaccine. I know I talked a lot of garbage about the vaccine. I still will. Come at me. You know, come at me though. My thing is this. Never mind.
No, I think that you've always been more against mandates and
Yeah.
feeling forced to take the vaccine more than the vaccine.
I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm
Mhm.
anti-stupid. And so when something feels unwell, and I think I would say I have a pretty good radar of what's good and what's bad, when something feels off, and for sure it felt off in the beginning.
Mhm.
And I don't know that like a vaccine is supposed to make you feel that way when you have it. But, you know, I was lucky. Like I had a mild response to the vaccine. I also had a mild response to COVID. I also took ivermectin. I gave my homie, who must not be named because he has to claim it, not me, the monoclonal drip that I was supposed to get.
Are we allowed to talk about that, Austin?
Yes, sir.
Austin got COVID with me.
And I sent that.
Well,
I actually ordered it for you, and then you basically said, "I'm doing better."
Well, I had talked to one of our doctors,
Yeah.
one of your doctor friends,
Yeah.
and they were like, I think you're good because you just had the vax like just 2 months ago. So like your body's fighting it. Cause she's like, how do you feel? And I'm like, I feel fine. Like I was going on long walks in the morning, trying to like make sure I kept my, you know, just exercise up to as much as I could. I did not want to get stuck in bed.
Although you're
and
not
so-
supposed to be exercising while you have COVID.
wasn't exercising. I was
Just
just
walking.
walking, you
Yeah.
know, and then Austin got it. And we're not going to talk about his vax history, but he needed the monoclonal more than I did, so I gave it to my friend. Over
Because
there.
it hit you pretty hard, right, Austin?
It did. It did. I was down for a couple days.
We're not going to
pretty
talk about
bad.
why.
And it hit Austin very, very hard. And did the IV help?
It helped a lot. 24 hours later, I was feeling so much better.
Also, you know what freaked me out about when Dr. Ma called me and like explained to me what the monoclonal drip was, because she wasn't recommended either way. I was begging. I was like, give me the Joe Rogan juice. I want all the things Joe Rogan had, whether you like them or not. I just wanted, you know, I already did the vaccine. I already put something in my body I did not approve of. So why not give me all of it?
And it's not the first time you've put something in your body that you shouldn't have been in there.
No, my 20s were filled with adventures.
I do think it's funny, all these people going, I don't want to take the vaccine. I don't know what's in it. You guys, and then you snort and smoke stuff.
I do not. do
Not
those
you. I'm
things,
just
no.
saying there's lots of people who were less discriminating
For sure. Well, like I have a good.
about the drugs they put in their body than they've been about the vaccine.
Yeah. Anyways, we are not condoning drug use, but what we're saying is it's always interesting when when friends are, you know. Anyways,
Yeah.
So had it, was really grateful. I mean, I'm grateful I'm healthy.
Mhm.
I'm grateful me and Austin are both young. The response was, my body's response was really really good. Like I was sick for 2 or 3 days. It felt like a flu.
Mhm.
It was intense, but it wasn't. I never at any point felt like I couldn't breathe. I
Right.
felt like I couldn't breathe out of my nose. Like like my sinuses were overpowering. But I took. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just like took Robitussin to stop the coughing, and then Sudafedrin in the day to stop the sinuses.
Did
and
you lose your sense of taste and smell?
I lost my sense of taste and smell. That is weird. I have a Christmas tree in my house. My house is very small, and you like a Christmas tree. Like it's kind of cool because my house has like a pitched roof in the front.
Mhm.
My house is small. Like when people, I try to explain it, I'm like, it's not a house, it's a casita. It's an apartment outside. And I mean,
It's a garage with permits.
It is. It's a garage they cut up and put a kitchen in. But like, you know, like people who don't live in LA have no concept of the tiny like house that is my house. But people who live in LA, it's like, oh, that's cool. It's a house. But I have a Christmas tree, and you should be able to smell it throughout
Right.
my entire house.
Yeah. the pine.
I go every day, And it is a Nordsman. We went Christmas tree shopping.
Yeah.
You dragged me to the office and you're like, you're going to go with me and mom. And I was like, okay, great. And it was the most fun. It was so fun. The guys, I tipped, you know, I'd never have cash because of COVID now. And because cash was like a New York thing. You always kept cash on you. And, you know, and you always keep cash on you.
Yeah, some of my background.
But also, it's like robbing season in LA. People getting robbed.
Yeah.
Hold up. Wait, I'm going to tell my Christmas story, but then did you hear about last night?
No. Wait, no. Tell your Christmas story, then let's go back to this.
Back to what?
Last night.
Robbing season?
Whatever, yeah.
Okay. So, a couple things happen. Christmas tree, we go and get it. Me and you see, like the guy was really fun walking us to the Christmas trees. It was on the corner of Highland and Franklin. And he was like, this is called a Nordsman. And me and you just had an affinity to the Nordsman. We like had an emotional connection with this tree.
No, Kim said that's a sad tree. It's a weepy tree.
You're like, of course you two want the sad tree.
But we want to make the sad tree happy. We want to give the sad tree a home.
But it kind of like droops.
It
like
does.
it starts really high and then it like droops as like it grows.
Yeah.
Or as it like falls. And it's so beautiful. So I got a smaller version of that, which is still pretty big. And I can't smell it for my life. And it makes me really sad because I can't smell it. I can taste this tea, but I can't taste like any depth in the tea, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So the weirdest thing was coffee. Because during COVID, I still drank coffee at home and it tasted like hot water.
So yesterday when I was telling you the coffee was too strong, I don't even know why I'm having the conversation with you. You can't taste it anyway. You're just pretending.
But I can taste like aftertaste. So like I could tell that the coffee, like I went to Tartine and Tartine's coffee was terrible. And then what?
We might have friends who work at Tartine.
Well, then you got to fix the coffee, bro. And if you work at Great White, fix the coffee there too.
All right, let's just be real.
No, but then
fix the coffee, guys.
So then Cyclass is my local right now because it's where I live, and like Cyclass's coffee is at least better than Tartine. But I can't really taste. It's like I used to have I think I had a pretty good like taste. I could taste coffee pretty like the depth and the notes and like what was actually being, the flavors that were there. I can't do it now. So I can't really taste things like chicken. I can't taste like bread.
See, that makes me sad.
It does make me sad.
I have to say, 2 years into this thing, I still have not gotten COVID.
No.
And I don't understand how that's possible. I mean, you've gotten COVID. Austin has had COVID. Everyone around
Tess
me.
And Eric had COVID.
People, all of our team. I mean,
Everybody.
Joe Smith.
Only people who haven't had it, you and Mom.
And Mariah.
We think Jake had to have had it at some point.
And so somehow the three of us have been just absolutely immune to it. And we've been around so many people and we've been around so many people with COVID, not just people who might have COVID. We've been around people who had COVID.
But the reality is, sorry, did you want to finish?
No.
You're going to get it.
One
of the things I told you, because like at one point I was going, like you guys were being, this is my thing with you and Mom, is like you guys are a little reckless when it comes to your own selves. You were like, I don't care if you have COVID, like let me come hang out with you. And I was like, no.
Well, now they're worried about the Omicron.
Wait, hold on, I'm not done with this. And so like the day before I tested negative, I was so sad because it was the day before, the day before I tested negative was the day before Thanksgiving. And my rule was if I don't test negative, I'm not gonna go. And so I drove over to your house and I sat on my car and you sat on your front yard and it was like 20 feet away from each other.
And your mom's yelling at me because I'm getting too close to the car.
Because you went and got a coffee and you dropped it off in my car. And, and whatever, like, but I did say this to you. I was like, I'm not really, I think before I was really worried that you guys would get it and like, you're a cancer survivor. You've had health stuff. You have lung stuff. I was really worried about it. I'm not that worried for you. Afterwards, I was like, it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. I don't know. I don't know if you would disagree, Austin, at least for me.
Well, I mean, I think it's different levels for different people. And so it was pretty bad for Austin. It was not as bad for you.
Yeah. It wasn't. There's 3 days of no fun though. Like there was no fun in the world for those 3 days.
Austin, was it a couple of weeks for you?
It was like 3 or 4 days.
3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Of like
and
the
then a couple
bad.
weeks of I can't do anything because I'm so tired.
Now, do you have your taste back?
I do.
Yeah, but did you ever have good taste?
I would hope so.
Do you have your smell back?
Yes.
So I can smell some stuff, but I can't smell it well.
So it's interesting. He had it more severe, but he has less lingering effects. You had a lighter version, but you have more lingering effects. And then,
Yeah. And I was definitely tired for probably another week and a half afterwards.
Yeah.
Like we released the collection and I was struggling. Like I could barely get work done.
And so some of the things that we were going to release and some of the things we're going to do with our McManus Gallery, we were putting on hold because just facing some of the health issues that people had and all the stuff we have going on. And we want to really have fun and give people great access to beautiful things.
We did a photo shoot and I had to do it from Zoom.
Yeah, it was really challenging.
We were like trying to hire models and do the whole casting, and like Nicole Lewis on our team was like coordinating everything, and then something would happen every time. She would get sick, I would get sick, Austin would get sick, and at one point I was just shooting products by myself when I got better because I was like everyone was on a different timeline. So we shot you as the model, which was really fun.
Yeah, so I will say two things. If you want to order something at McManus Gallery and get it by Christmas, you better do it fast because fulfillment is Aaron McManus.
It is me.
And if you order it super close to Christmas, just be super patient because this is we do not have a massive corporation behind us. This is just us, and when I say us, I mean him.
You're the best for moral support because you'll come in and you'll hang and you're like, do you want me to do anything? I'm like, I want you to touch nothing.
You want me? I want you to leave.
My sister, I'm like, I need you to go home so I can work and get stuff done.
But now there's the Omicron variant.
Yeah.
But I feel very encouraged because Governor Newsom has called in Optimus Prime to take care of Omicron, and so it's going to be
Governor Newsom. I don't want to get too much into politics.
No, I'm just joking. It sounds like a Transformer, right? It sounds like one of the bad guys.
It does. I'm like, who's naming this thing? But the research says I think that Omicron's less deadly than.
This
Delta.
really frustrated me because I would read these articles and the headlines would say deadly variant. And the first paragraph or two would just talk about how deadly and dangerous it was in its spread. And then by the third paragraph, it would say, but the symptoms are really mild. Mild fatigue and some scratchy throat. And I went, wait a minute, why isn't that the lead?
Yeah.
That yes, there's a variant, but there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that the variant has any effect severely on anyone. And even the doctor or scientist in South Africa who identified the variant said that it was virtually non-symptomatic for people. And,
I loved this was interesting for me, right? Because I think one thing that's happening is I think people are realizing if they don't speak up, the truth will not be the truth. And the media is not a safe place. And that the media I'm not discrediting all of it. I think there's so many great aspects of the media, but like anything that has a perspective, it is controlled by someone and a series of people, whether it's producers, whether it's writers, whether it's the people on camera. All the stuff going on with Cuomo, the Cuomos in New York is hilarious. Not like the heartbreaking stuff, but like hilarious in the sense that something felt off the entire time.
Yeah.
And now that things are coming out, like I never want to like rejoice in people's like bad moments, but it shows this that like every media outlet, because like all my friends who were like CNN, they're good, it's perfect. I don't like Fox News. That is like cartoons to me. That's like watching dark cartoons to me. But at least CNN, you were like, okay, there's hope in the world. Like this, at least this is. But it, you realize that everything to some degree has an agenda one way or the other. But I love that the scientific community came out really strong against the New York Times headline that said like the Omicron found in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And they came out saying, of course it was found in South Africa. It has like some of the top leading virologists in the world because they're dealing with Africa.
Yeah.
And so like they're there because that's where if you're going to study virology, like that's where, I think it's virology, like the study of viruses, that's where you go.
Yeah, but then our government blocks 8 nations from traveling into our country when the variant's already all over the world.
And that was in the article. It was like, no, this isn't South Africa, but also it's in Asia, it's in Latin America, it's in North America, it's in the UK and Europe.
Yeah, and sometimes I just have to remind myself because I'm a person who tries to stay away from conspiracy theories on every side. That while it may not be conspiracy theories, but you have to realize that people in power can actually be driven by fear.
Right.
And because they're human. Yes, they're scientists, or yes, they're doctors, or yes, they're presidents, or yes, they are people in power. But some people are more driven by fear. And what I see with Omicron is I see people who are incredibly driven by fear rather than by science. And that's why people say, I trust the science, and going, stop acting like science is religion. It's like when people go, I believe the Bible. And I'm like, yeah, which part of the Bible do you believe and what are you talking about specifically?
Right.
And when people say, I trust science, and going, look, science is more dynamic. Some scientists are more driven by an objective view of what's happening in the world. Some scientists are more driven by fear. Some of them, scientists are political. There are conservative scientists and liberal scientists. And we shouldn't act like it's a monolithic perspective when you're dealing with science.
That's what we should do in this next episode. Not this episode, but the next one, is we should break down all of the dumb sayings that culture accepted in the last 2 years. Because I think the idea of trusting the science is science is not singular, and science is not concrete, and it doesn't stay in one place. It's not, what would it be? It's not fixed.
It's not static.
It's not static. That's the word I'm looking for. It's not static. Science is literally, in the literal sense, it is always evolving. It is always growing. The understanding that scientists have are continually growing. And you were part of so many communities that are science-based communities.
Absolutely. And even when I was at the hospital the other day, there was a billboard talked about the vaccine. It said, I trust science. And I'm going, 2 years ago, it was said, I trust medicine. But now it's become a political statement to say, I trust science. And I'm going, see, I actually do trust medicine. Medicine makes a lot of advances. It develops, but I also don't trust all medical personnel. And because people who have used medicine to hurt people have used medicine for political reasons, and frankly,
there's a movie I really like. It came out in 2013, and it's directed by Zal. I'm gonna butcher his last name, Batmangli. His brother is in Vampire Weekend, and produced by Ridley Scott. And this girl that I really love since I went to when I was in film school, and then also went to Park City. What is it called? Sundance for the first time. I saw her debut thing, Britt Marling. And it's Britt Marling, Elliot Page, Alexander Skarsgård, who's now in Succession, who I love. Mariah's saying hi back there. She just left. And the entire movie is about how this is the synopsis. An undercover agent at a private intelligence firm is hired to infiltrate the East, an eco-terrorism cell targeting companies that pollute the environment. And the entire movie is about how essentially each one of them have been affected by companies like Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, who obviously released prescription medicine before it was actually, when it was FDA approved, but before it was actually like safe for humans. And that there were a group of people who it was kind of really cool, because it's kind of like these like superhero guys, that they're all affected badly by the side effects. And they had found each other to like destroy like this eco-terrorist, big pharma thing. And I think it's so fascinating that that's now, that it's the complete opposite, right? Is we were run by big pharma. It's not trusting the science. It's you have to decide. See, I think it's such a manipulative term, right? Because and we talk about this in the next episode. You're not trusting the science. You're trusting Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and what was the other one? Moderna. That was like the super ghetto one, wasn't it? No, Johnson & Johnson was the ghetto one, right? But this, and I say ghetto because like I think the articles came out that like maybe it was like not that effective at all.
Yeah, and I felt like that's where I pulled back a little bit, because I actually told a couple of people, hey, early on, I think if you're going to get one, probably get the Johnson & Johnson. And then I immediately found out that Johnson & Johnson was the most dangerous one. And I realized I have to be super careful here, because I don't know. I'm just working on what I'm learning, and they don't know.
No, they don't know.
And I don't even, I'm not attributing malintent to anyone. I'm just saying that people are pretending to know a lot more than they do.
Yes.
And they're overreacting. There's just no question in my mind that so much what's happened across our nation has been overreaction. And a lot of it is, I think, motivated by fear, and then it becomes political, and then it's politicized, and then it becomes bigger.
And then it becomes trust the science.
Yeah.
And then it becomes kind of brainwashy. And that's where that issue with me is. I'm definitely a conspiracy theorist. Not like in the QAnon sense, because I think like for me, like that stuff freaks me out. But so does the far left, far right freaks me out. I'm the far middle. Like take the middle and just go straight down, like down to, like a rabbit hole. And we've come a long way during COVID. I think I've figured out a lot of political beliefs, social beliefs, and cultural beliefs. I got a call this week talking about kind of mass media and how we like I guess what is it, consume and digest what's going on in the world. I got a call yesterday saying, "Hey, is LA as dangerous as everybody's saying it is?"
Oh, you were talking about something that happened last night.
Yep, let me get there though.
Okay.
And so I said, "Well, you have to understand when when you go to a big city, if you just can't be stupid. Like you have to,
Right.
and I mean this in the sense of this: you have to be hyper aware of what's
Yeah.
going on around you, even when you're walking to your front door.
Mm-hmm.
There was a video a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
in our hiatus, where a woman in your neighborhood was walking her baby in her stroller.
Yeah, it's so
and
sad.
and she's like obviously like in workout gear
And she had a gated property.
and like a 10-foot gate and
Electric gate.
puts the code into like, so there's multiple camera angles on the news, and she opens the gate, and as she goes around the gate to go inside, another camera picks up these two guys pretending to be on a walk, put masks down, come in and rob her with her baby there.
Yeah.
And like luckily they just took the two bags and then like
They took
ran.
the baby bag.
So weird. Which
It's just dark.
So it's just weird. Broad daylight morning,
Yeah.
I think. And so, we were talking. People are, then a guy got killed in my neighborhood outside of like some people would say that there's Hollywood and there's like the Hollywood and then there's West Hollywood and it kind of all merges together. And depending on what street you're on, you can really be a different energy.
Yeah.
The street I'm on, I would say it's up and coming. And it's still being lifted up.
It has a little while before it's
right.
lifted
And so,
up completely. Yeah.
but a few blocks away is Sunset, and some guys were getting getting pickup from takeout from a place that we've gone lots of times, getting back in their car, and they were the guns pulled on them. They pulled a gun to try to, I guess, like defend themselves, and then they got killed. The two guys got killed. Who were the guys who were getting in the car. So, and that's happened. So then this morning I get a text. So I had that conversation last night. Is LA actually as dangerous, or can we come for New Year's? And I'm like, well, I'm not leaving. So it is dangerous though. It's robbing season. Like that's just the reality.
And there are cars following cars home.
Yeah.
And robbing them when they get to their houses.
Yeah. And like, it happened in Beverly Hills. It's happening locally. It's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So, you go to a restaurant or you go to a grocery store and then there's a car that's following you home because they spot your car.
And by the way, I was astonished that Garcetti, actually, our mayor, blamed it on people being on their phones too much.
I sent you that video, right?
Yeah. Instead of dealing with the issue of crime.
Did you see it, Austin?
And he deals with it's because we're looking at our phones too much, so we're not aware of the world around us.
In a press conference with like 20, I don't even know if they were police. I don't think they were police officers. I think because I don't think the police really like him. I think he had like officiants behind him, and they said, the reason this is happening is because people are looking at their phones, and so stop looking at your phones when you get into your car, when you're going to your house.
Wow.
Which maybe there's logic to it, but the way he's saying it, I'm like, no. How about make the city safe?
Yeah.
Like instead of I don't want to get in on a political rant. So here's the deal. So I woke up to a text from Eric Roy saying that his boss that he works with texted him. And it was I don't know if there's a group text with guys that are local, but he's also local and he doesn't live far from me, saying that two different houses last night. Here it is. Just talked to my boss. There were 2 break-ins on his street last night. 5 guys came in and barricaded the families in their homes.
What?
Yes. And it's in like,
so this is in a really nice area.
really nice. Like, but also like, I'm on the not so nice end of that street, but if you took my street all the way down, that's like where his neighborhood is.
Yeah.
Insane. 5 guys, 2 different houses.
5 guys robbed 2 different houses, barricading the families in.
Yeah.
What were they going to accomplish by barricading the families in?
Well, I'm guessing they're keeping the family from calling 911 and they're robbing the house.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
It's really aggressive. So it's an interesting season in LA. And it was bad last year, but it wasn't this bad.
No, and I don't know if people are going to be upset that I'm saying this, but I actually think a huge amount of the criminality and lawlessness is connected to our nation allowing all the rioting that happened and looting during that paralleled with the Black Lives Matter. Now, I understand that it wasn't people who were genuinely fighting for.
No, it wasn't the BLM movement, but it was on the coattails.
But because they allowed all that to happen all around it, because they allowed the looting and they allowed the destruction and they allowed people to get away with it, it actually created a new baseline in our society. I do think there's a connection. I also think that that looting and rioting had a direct effect on the January 6th attack on the Capitol. I think that what's happened is that we've moved toward almost an acceptance of lawlessness in our country, and
it shows again with Kyle Rittenhouse, right?
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting situation there where I was talking to a couple of people who were more informed, and they said, "Hey, the problem is not the verdict that they came out with not guilty. The problem is the laws."
Right.
And they said, the verdict was right. The laws are wrong. We need to fix the laws.
Right.
And I couldn't help but have the feeling like I'm going, all right, way before you get to a 17-year-old kid with an semi-automatic weapon killing 2 people and injuring a third person, I have to say, I mean, if it was a black 17-year-old or a Latino 17-year-old, I don't even know if he would have got there without being shot and killed.
Yeah.
See, I think that there had been a higher likelihood that he would have been killed by carrying that weapon. And I think sometimes we don't realize it's not all the other dynamics that people are saying this is where inequity comes in. It's actually in that invisible space. And I would never think when I was 17-year-old that I could get away with walking around with an automatic weapon or semi-automatic weapon. Because I was a Latino from El Salvador.
Yeah, people don't see you though as that.
Yeah, that's because time and reputation. People see you through who they know you to be. And but when I traveled the world, they saw me very differently when I was younger.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I was seen as a potential criminal source, a potential travel risk, and so I lived a lot of my life being seen differently. Now I get the benefit of the other.
So Kyle Rittenhouse, it's Rittenhouse, right?
Yeah.
I don't like this kid. But I do think, only from both sides, right? The reason I don't like this kid is I saw him on a podcast like a week after his arraignment, and he was found not guilty. And I just don't understand how you find him not guilty. I understand that some of the things that he did were loopholes within the law, but how does a 17-year-old kid who has a semi-auto weapon that is not his, he can't drive. No, he can drive. Sorry, he can't vote yet. He's 17. So how can he carry a semi-automatic weapon? And I understand there's a state of lawlessness, right? But And I get to some degree, I did see the videos. I do think.
Yeah, there were definitely other mitigating things that led to a not guilty.
Right.
And remember, not guilty doesn't mean innocent. It means that you're not legally guilty of a crime. And I think that's a significant thing in the process. And I've heard both sides. I've heard people talk about, he was going to defend a place that had been, trashed and vandalized the day before. All these different things are happening. But when I've listened to him, I thought, why are people trying to make him a hero? Well, he's definitely not a hero. And but I think the fact that we're actually having conversations about 17-year-olds carrying semi-automatic weapons to try to deal with social unrest shows how bad of a situation we're in right now. And I do think all those things are connected with the lawlessness right now. And I also think that this mindset that when you create a two-class dichotomy, rich people are evil. So people who have are evil, and people who do not have the right to take what people have. You create this deeper sense of lawlessness, of the moral compass of I shouldn't steal from someone else. It's wrong. It's even if my being poor, or even if my not having what that person has is not right. It's not right for me to take it from that person. That's being eliminated right now because it's creating this bifurcation. It's the haves against the have-nots. And if you have, you're the bad guys. And if you have not, you have the right to take from the haves. And at the same time, it seems like it's also we're in the middle of the situation where people are saying, I don't know if I want to go back to work, but I do know I want to have what people who work have. And I think there are deeper social issues that we're going to have to deal with as a society as we move forward.
I thought it was really interesting. So here, I think everything you said is amazing, is really incredible. I also think it's very, very true. We are faced with some big issues now. One being, I don't want Kyle Rittenhouse to go to jail. I want him to go for the rest of his life through a program, a mental health program. A 17-year-old carrying a semi-auto who kills 2 people, you're not well.
And if you're not affected by it, you're a sociopath.
Yes. And honestly, on the podcast that I listened to him, and he was like, F LeBron for making this comment, he's like laughing about it. I was like, I saw it, and I just saw the clip, and it's out of context, and so much is out of context, so I don't want to tell him, say that he's a terrible person, but I didn't like what I saw. I saw a lot of arrogance. I saw a white 17-year-old who was enabled, and even just like the photos of him crying, it felt in court. It just felt as untrustworthy as all the trust the science stuff. Like something just felt off about it. I'm like, okay, so you're a child when you want to be a child, and then you're a big man when you're on this podcast saying F LeBron.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that he was crying uncontrollably during the trial. I think I would have changed my mind. I didn't think it was sincere.
No, it was not sincere.
But if in the interviews later he was crying because he killed those people,
yes,
then I would have said maybe he was sincere, because the emotions would have carried forward. But I didn't see that.
Yeah, just my thing is, it felt like he was bragging on the pod, and I want to go back and listen to it more. I'm going, you took, whether those people were terrible people or not, you took 2 lives. And there should be some kind of reverence, some kind of mourning to that.
Yeah, some remorse.
Remorse.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that even if someone broke into my house and they were a criminal and they were trying to rob or even hurt my family, and somehow I had to make the choice to kill that person, I would be convinced it was the right thing to do. But I would be devastated by killing another human being. I would be devastated by it.
We've talked about this a lot because, we've had the conversations like, are we gun people or are we not gun people? And I'm like, I called you the other day and I was like, I'm living alone on like a really sketchy block. Like, can we be gun people now? And you were always like, we're baseball bat people, like we're not gun people. But it felt, because it was the week that those guys got killed.
Yeah.
And they were outside the Range Rover and, they pulled the gun back. So did they hide in the situation? For sure. And you were calling me to say, if you get robbed, the answer is, here you go. Here's all my stuff.
I don't own anything worth my life, your life, people I love.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I do think that our political structures need to recognize that having a society where people respect each other's property is a rare and fragile culture. And
what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
We're assuming that that our nation will just naturally find its way back to respecting each other and treating each other with mutual respect. And there is no world in which I think I have a right to go steal from someone else, even if what they earned I considered unethical in the way they earned it. And there is no justification in my mind for me to ever steal from another human being. And it's my justification to work hard. And if I want more, then I need to either be more inventive, more creative, more industrious. But I don't want envy to drive our culture or greed to drive our culture. And I think right now we're fighting greed among the rich, but we're not fighting envy among those who would steal. And both of them will destroy a culture.
There's so much to unpack here. I think there's so much to unpack here. I think I think my biggest, because I called one of our friends up in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Lawrence, and I was like, "How do you feel about this?" And I'm not going to give you his opinion, but we were talking about the same conversation of like, was he outside of the law or was he outside of ethics? And was he right? And so like, how do you uphold the ethics, human ethics, when in a state of lawlessness?
Right.
And I had an issue because I'm going, he killed 3 white people.
No, 2 white people.
No,
and shot a 3rd one.
And killed 2 white people and shot a 3rd white person. And so even in that of itself is like a paradox, right? Because they, obviously if it was I fully believe if it was a young black man who shot 2 white people, he would be. I don't think he would have even made it off the street that night.
Right. Yeah. If he actually got to a trial.
Yeah, I don't even think
he would be guilty.
No.
Yeah.
And so you have to see it from that perspective. Obviously, the law is the law, and you have to find him guilty within the law. But I'm going at a certain point. What he symbolized was far greater and far deeper, not far greater, but like far more hurtful than what I think the outcome was. And so that's my issue, right?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges was when it first happened. I don't know how, but I assumed by the way I was hearing things from the media that he shot 2 black people
for sure,
and shot a 3rd black person, but killed 2 black people. It was only later, much later, where I discovered no, the 2 people killed were white, and I thought, okay, wait a minute, how was this framed as a racial issue? This is a terrible issue, but that was not a racial issue, and
no,
and I think sometimes we're trying to politicize things. And so we actually make justice murky. And, and so look, I have friends and they're hunters, and I want them to always have the right to have their guns to hunt. And no matter what I feel or other people feel about hunting, I think they have the right to do that. And I think that people have a right to have some level of defense. And but this whole industry of selling semi-automatic pieces to create a weapon that is technically illegal, but all the parts are not illegal.
Yeah.
We need to find a way to stop that. And so when I hear people on the left say, "Hey, let's get rid of all the guns," and then people on the right going, "No, we need to protect all the rights," I'm going, why can't 2 intelligent people get in a room and go, "You're not going to take away everyone's gun."
Right.
And it's not even right.
Right.
But you've got to stop making these kinds of weapons so easily available to everyone.
I mean, it's the reason you put you put the drug dealers in prison, but you don't go after the drug lords. The greatest warlords in the world live in America. These people who are making, like, let's go after the people who make bullets. Right? Like, I always find it really interesting. I'm like, instead of worrying about your right to bear arms, how about let's just like let's eliminate. Obviously, there will be states of lawlessness, right? We've talked about this because it's like, this idea of standing your ground. Like the fact that you can stand your ground. We don't have that law in California, the stand your ground law, but you have it in the South and in southern states. Feel like different countries where if someone goes for you and you have to prove that you had to stand your ground, but you can shoot them dead. That to me makes me really nervous. And I understand where it comes from, right? But it was outside of the context of automatic weapons and semi-automatic weapons. Like, we should penalize the companies who manufacture death.
Yeah, and
right?
And it's funny because our laws don't really go after the companies. Yeah, it's just like we arrest the prostitute, but we never seem to identify the John
or the pimp.
No, even the John, the guy who goes and finds the prostitute. Because that's some rich guy who's coming from the suburb, and he doesn't ever seem to get penalized.
It's the issue with Epstein, right? It's like the judge came out and talked about how many redacted names were on these documents, these flight traveling documents.
Unredact them all.
Unredact them all. Like, if you're gonna burn someone, burn them.
Yeah.
Like, you can't protect prime ministers, senators, governors, judges, heads of state. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that no one talks about it is crazy. And I know that we sound like conspiracy theorists, anti-gun, but here's the thing. We're attacking it from 2 different sides. We're saying we're not super into guns, and we're also not into big government flying planes to islands that were filled with child molesters, right? Like it's pretty remarkable the state that our government is in right now.
Yeah, I
like, how is it that there's video cameras inside of Kyle Rittenhouse's trial and not a single video camera inside of Ghislaine Maxwell's? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's of course because they want the media. I don't know. It feels like they want media to dominate this situation, and they want this other thing to go sweep under the rug like it has many times before. I don't know. How do you ignore that?
Well, when I see something like the Jeffrey Epstein Maxwell kind of thing, I'm going, I have a feeling there are enough guilty people on every side of the political spectrum that they're all protecting it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like one side's going to go, oh, we want to strip, all the redacted material and make it available to everyone, so it just destroys the other side.
Yeah. Who's getting paid
when both sides are guilty?
Yeah.
You have a lot more cooperation in cover-ups, and this is where this is probably my conspiracy theory. There's no universe in which I believe Jeffrey Epstein just killed himself.
There's no what? We're at minute 51 and people are wondering when we're landing this plane.
And there is no universe where I think that politicians don't make decisions for their own personal benefit. But here it's because I'm an optimist and I want to say this. In spite of everything that we've talked about, and in spite of all things going on with the crime that's going on, it is out of control.
In Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles, it is. Maybe not across the nation, but it's insane here.
Yeah.
People are afraid.
Right.
People are afraid for their lives. They're afraid for their property. They're afraid that their homes are unsafe. The quality of life here, it's going down so quickly. It's almost stunning. But you cannot allow what's happening to make you a different person.
No.
You have to rise above this moment. You have to decide to live a life of hope. You have to live a life of generosity. So I'm going to give a couple of quick suggestions.
But you do have to adapt, right?
You have to be aware. You got to get after your phone.
Because it's the reality is like if you live on a farm,
right,
and then they build a city around you, but you treat it like it's a farm, you're just naive. Or you're unaware.
You don't realize the world has changed, or you want to accept it.
Yeah. We live in, we've lived in a concrete jungle. We live in a city that was, it was dangerous in the 90s, but for the last 20 years, we've had the luxury of it being fairly safe.
Yeah.
This city. And, there's conversations about how you go 10 miles south of the 10, it's a very different LA, and that no one cares about it. And that it only matters when it crawls into Beverly Hills, into West Hollywood, into Hollywood, Mm-hmm. But a huge part of it is are we being naive? Like, are we in a city that has now changed,
mm-hmm.
and now we're catching up with it? And do we, how do you protect yourself? How do you adapt
mm-hmm.
to, how do you not? Because it is to some degree like there was a lot of interesting statements by Charles Darwin. Natural selection is one of them, right? Because how do you not be a victim of natural selection? How do you not get canceled out because you didn't pay attention to the change around you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Darwin has a lot to say right now, because
we're because he's dead. But
no, believe me, people still speak for generations.
I know.
And we're in this tension of the survival of the fittest.
We are, aren't we?
Yeah, but we're also in a tension where, from a social political climate, we're trying to ask the question: how do we create some level of fairness or equality for people so that everyone has the fair chance to succeed? And this is part of the dilemma. Sometimes, if society doesn't move fast enough to create fairness, then rebellion and anarchy will move faster.
But what element of fairness do you mean? Well, interesting. What were you going to say, though?
I just wanted to wrap up everything we're talking about.
I think we're still going, I think. I don't know if we're wrapping up yet.
Yeah.
Just go. Just keep going. I think this is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating to me that, I spent at least 10 years of my life working in intensely impoverished areas with people who were incredibly poor.
Yeah.
And Kim and I didn't have very much either. So we were
in Dallas.
Yeah, in
But
Dallas.
you don't count L.A., which is interesting.
No, because
you were in the hood too in L.A.
Yes, that's true. In East LA,
Yeah.
I was in the barrio. Yeah. And but the reason I count it in Dallas is because mine and Kim's combined income would have qualified us for welfare for 10 years.
Yeah.
So we were really poor ourselves.
Right.
And all of our friends were people really in that same economics, spectrum. But most of the people I knew were really good, caring, honest, hardworking people. They were just trapped in a cycle of poverty that was really difficult to get out of.
Yeah.
And then you had the people who made their lives miserable. And what sometimes we don't realize, because you see crime, like in LA, you see, people following people home in gated communities, or if you find people, it's going cross-economic. But those same people who are they're committing crimes among the rich on a Saturday night, they're committing crimes on a daily basis in their neighborhood.
Right.
They're making life miserable for the people in their community.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to realize that the crime that we're experiencing right now, it's probably 10 times worse than we can imagine.
Where they go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if when rich people are being affected by that level of crime, you cannot imagine the amount of trauma and tragedy and violence that the people who are more impoverished are dealing with at the same time.
Yeah.
And so, if you are one of those people, well, the rich get what they deserve, whatever,
Yeah.
and you need to realize that lawlessness hurts everyone, not just the rich. It hurts the middle income person, the blue collar person. It hurts the person who's in poverty. And it doesn't make the world better for anyone. People who take actually hurt everyone. And they don't help anyone. They're not taking. And this idea that they're, four guys are robbing this guy at gunpoint, that somehow they're stealing because they're going to go feed their kids.
Right.
I don't believe that. I think that is a very, very thin story. There are times in history where people have had to felt they had to steal because they couldn't feed their families or because they were just so desperate. Most of the time, that's not the situation.
Right.
Most of the time, it's driven by envy, it's driven by greed, and it's driven by a lack of conscience and a belief that it's morally acceptable for you to take what someone else has worked hard for. And and I don't think it's incidental that we have the same moment of increasing crime, where we have the same moment where people do not want to work. And we have a moment where people are not interested in going back to work that much. They're not interested in working hard. I mean, you can hear the narrative across our country. And the thing is, like, hey, if you don't want to work hard, then don't expect for the government or someone else to pay for your life.
Yeah.
Like, I love this country because it gives me an opportunity to match my outcome with my talent and my determination.
Okay.
And I love living in a place where if I work hard and I'm good at something, I can create a different world. I just want that for everyone. See, I do want that for everyone. That's where I want to drive our culture, where every person, no matter how they're born, no matter what their status, no matter how rich or poor, has an opportunity if they work hard and take their talent and their passion and can create a better life.
Yeah, it's really interesting. No, I mean, I agree. I think, the world is now here for the taking, especially in the U.S. Like, if you're taking, what did Buscemi call it? He didn't call it the stimmy. He called it what did he call it? He used a phrase for it, like just taking the check.
Yeah.
And just chilling out. And it was like, oh, it's so interesting. Like, if you actually want to, there's so many jobs out there.
Yeah.
There's so many jobs. And I think the world's changing, right? Like, it does feel like the U.S. is becoming more of a socialist state, and even just in the values, even the fact that anarchy is allowed or that lawlessness is allowed, it feels like it feels like we have created this space where, from the media to like every person, where rich people are devalued, where successful people have been. And it's like the government wants to take from corporations, right? They like tax the rich, tax the billionaire, tax the 1%. And then it seems like the everyday man has lost their respect for the person who has become more successful than them, right? Instead of looking at, I think, at least in the generations past, like instead of looking at those people going, okay, I'm going to try to achieve what they've achieved, or I'm going to learn the things that they've learned to try to build that. It's like, no, I'm going to go and take that from them now. And so we have lost a lot in this generation. And I think every generation loses things and gains things. So it's, because on the other side, like there's so many positive things. There's all these NFTs that are blowing up, right? And I don't even fully understand. There's the metaverse that's like ripping wide open. There's, Bitcoin and all of these altcoins and it's just like, I don't know if there's ever been a generation more engaged in the stock market, in new technology and progressing the future. And then it feels like that there's never been more of a dangerous time than in this era, where you have this, this Omicron variant and every new variant. This feels like we were talking about this the other day. It feels like we're living in the future. We are now living in the future.
This post-apocalyptic era.
Right, this like very nihilistic, like, but there's so much hope, right? Like all these NFTs, we were talking about it, like the metaverse. We're talking about like where's Mosaic's position or in the metaverse? Yeah. And I was having this conversation with Lawrence. He's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, it isn't for you. Because we were talking about this Ready Player One. Yeah. I read that book a couple years back before it was a movie. And I think I told you, I was like, yo, this is the future. This is the future. As far as education goes, and education, art, I think mass congregation, people coming together, it's the most economically viable way. Maybe not now, but in the next 10, 15, 20 years, like every kid will, why go to public school when the public school system is broken, when you can literally have the best teachers in the world? Like education will change, and then I think in a generation or two, education level will increase so dramatically that it would be like everyone's doctors. So now what are people? People can become astronauts, right? It's like to be a doctor is going to be the everyday thing, or to be a lawyer, or to be a coder. And now I got to go and explore the world. We're going to go back to being explorers. So I don't know. There's a lot of sadness, a lot of brokenness, a lot of crime, but I think the future is still hopeful.
Absolutely. And I just think that we have to decide to be a part of the solution and not the problem. Right. And that, but I do think that it's important to pay attention to what's driving our actions as a society, And I look at Elon Musk and I don't think to myself, why does that guy get to have so much money?
Right.
I look at that guy and I go, man, I wish I could have as much impact on creating the future as he does.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel envious in a negative way. I feel envious in a positive way. Like, I want to be more inventive. I want to be more creative. When I look at someone and I see them create a multi-billion-dollar company, I don't think to myself, wow, what an unfair world that, he has 10 houses and, and $5 billion in the bank. I think to myself, what do I need to do to be more creative, to be more productive, like
more successful?
Yeah, and so I find that it's easier to create they're all the bad guys. Everyone who does better than me is the bad guys, and me and everybody below me, we're all the good guys. Yeah. And what I want to encourage people to go, look, here's the crazy thing: when you steal, you're in the same condition a blink of an eye later because you didn't create. And I remember in the Bible, it actually says, let him who steals steal no longer, and do something with their hands that they may give to those who are in need. And I go, here's the journey. If you're stealing, stop stealing, because you're actually just hurting yourself and all society. And work. Do something with your hands. Work is a good thing. There's no work that is, in a sense, dishonorable. And work is not beneath you. Work is not beneath me. Work is what actually, in many ways, instills the values that help us succeed. And he says, and do something meaningful so that we have something to give to those in need. So what Paul's actually saying is, stop taking and become generative so that you can give.
Mm.
And so really our journey, our economic journey is not finished until we become contributors to society.
Wow.
And that's the problem with stealing, is that you're taking and you're static. Because to maintain the same lifestyle that you just took, you have to steal again and steal again and steal again and steal again.
Wow.
And the crazy thing is the person you stole from, they're probably so generative that they're going to create more. So you're right. They're going to find a way to create again.
Yeah.
And that's a tragedy. Instead of learning from them how to create, you want to steal from them what they've accumulated.
This is a really, really interesting thing. Because I had a friend in college. It was like a girlfriend in college, right out of college. And I remember you've had Clipper tickets for a long time. And we were sitting in your seats, and you've had great Clipper tickets. And it's easier to get great Clipper tickets because
they were so bad.
They were so bad.
Yeah.
But now it's cool because now they're good. So it's like inheriting, you stay faithful. But I remember she saw people she knew from where she was from, Orange County. And she was like, oh, I know them. Like, they're really good friends with my parents. Like, she said hi, we said hi, whole thing. And they had kids there. And they sit floor seats. And back then, I think they had 2 floor seats and then 2 seats in our section. And the kids would sit in our section and then they would all switch out. Now they're all married now, and they literally have all of the rows in front of us. They had like half that row. And I remember she told me, she was like, they got robbed. Like, it was 10 years ago now, but she was like, they got robbed and they stole all of his watches. He's a very wealthy guy. And it just, what you said just dawned on me so much, because I imagine those watches hurt him personally. Like, they probably had special meaning, special memory. Some people are watch people, and they're symbols, but I was like, but it didn't hurt him financially, I'm looking at him now. I'm like, he used to have 2 seats on the floor. Now he's got 8. And I'm like, there's something about the mindset of going, you can steal from me something physical, and it might have an emotional response, but you can't take the thing that helped me get those things. Yeah. And I'm going to keep doing those. Like, he just kept generating, kept building.
And that's the very thing. If you could steal anything, you should steal their brain. you should steal the way they think, the way they see the world, the way they engage everyday life. Because if you steal what they've actually purchased, you're just a black hole.
But it takes humility, right?
It does take humility.
Because like, imagine like what the work it took to find out that the guy lived there, and I imagine they were in a safe or something. I don't know, maybe they were out, I don't know. But the work it took to get the thing that wasn't yours, imagine just like, it takes humility to go and sit outside of his house and go, can I just shadow you? Can I be your cleaner? Yeah. Can I be your driver? Can I be the guy who just learns off the wall? Can I go to college with you? You know what I mean? And that takes humility, and it takes a moment of being humbled and a moment of being embarrassed, right? Because like, what if he says no? Yeah. But we often want to take the road that makes us feel most powerful. Yeah. Versus the road that makes us feel smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we actually need to celebrate, especially those small business owners and those young entrepreneurs and those people who work hard to do the mom and pop shops, and and frankly, that's why immigrants are so awesome, right? Because so many the families that came from other countries, they just opened a little mom and pop shop, a little laundromat, a little pizza place, a little coffee shop, a little whatever it is, and and from small beginnings, beautiful things come.
It's so true.
And I just I just really want a better future for our nation. And you may not like how we've come to where we've come. You may be really focused on maybe everything that was done wrong over the last 300 years or so. Yeah. But here's the thing. Every nation is an imperfect nation. Yeah. This nation has made incredible progress in 300 years. We're not going to create a better nation by destroying the nation we have. We're going to create a better nation by building on the nation we have. And so I just would love to maybe just like summarize this particular conversation and going, this is a tough moment for all of us. Yeah. And there's a lot of chaos and swirling all around us. Yeah. But don't drown in the chaos. Rise above it. be hopeful,
Yeah.
set a new standard,
Yeah.
and let's all create a better future together.
I love that. I think those are the closing words. Are you happy with that?
I am.
Okay.
I'm good.
I just want to say thank you for doing this podcast with me. We spent the last hour just talking about all the things.
Catching up.
Catching up. It feels
And catching
good.
up with all of our listeners.
It feels good. I love you so much, and I'm
And I
really
love you
grateful
too,
for
buddy.
your voice. And I'm glad. Hey, everyone that's part of the Battle Ready podcast. I'm just grateful. I know we're grateful. We're looking at the end of the year, and it's been a 2-year process of all of these things. But one of the things that I'm probably most grateful for is the fact that we've built this really cool community that talks about real things. And I actually woke up the Sunday that I was like actually really sick from COVID, and I missed the Christmas lighting, and I was so sad. Because if you don't know Mosaic, if you've never been to the Mosaic here, we have a gigantic Christmas tree in the front, front corner of Hollywood Boulevard in La Brea that we light up every year. And tons of people come out from all over to see it. And my friend sends me this text, and it was a screenshot of a text between her and another guy in London. And I found out afterwards, and it was just a link of our Battle Ready podcast on creativity.
Wow.
And I don't think she believes in Jesus. I'm not sure her faith situation, but she runs a really cool company that I love. And she's like, how crazy is this? And it was her friend who's like another crazy creative from London sending the link to her being like, you need to listen to this. And she screenshotted the text and said, hey, I really love this podcast. It meant a lot.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that's amazing. So this podcast has really transcended a lot of relationships that even, I didn't even know people were listening. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful. And we couldn't do this without the people who listened to it. And I mean, I guess we could, but
But it would seem kind of silly.
it would seem kind of silly. So you're a part of this as much as we are, and we're really grateful. I'm excited for the new year. I think there's gonna be a lot of innovation with this podcast. I want to do some things with it. I feel like I didn't know what the purpose was for a little bit, and now I do.
That's
so
awesome. Can't wait till next year.
I know, excited.
All right.
Bye. Love you.